So before I begin, I don't freaking know how the hell my lighting is doing. I'm like overcompensating right now, like with my ring light and shit. And then like it's super rainy outside. I pick like the dumbest days to do videos. I swear. It's like yesterday it was like super nice out, really sunny, and it's like, you know what? I'm not gonna be in the house, and that's exactly what I did. I wasn't in the house. And today it's like, oh, I'm here and let me film with cloudy weather and stuff. And anyhow, other things I wanted to say before I begin. It's kind of messed up what I'm about to say, sort of, but like, I never like thank the people that watch my videos, and that's kind of like what I'm going to do before I start this. So I do appreciate people who watch me and the people who are subscribed to me. Every time I get a subscriber, I'm like, what the hell? Like, there's another nutcase out there, I guess. Somebody else that gets what I'm saying. So every time I get them, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm not alone, I guess. But anyhow, thank you, for the people who support me and support my channel and the little crazy things I say sometimes, or the boring things I say, or the combination. Maybe you just like the combination of things that come out of my mouth. Either way, I appreciate it very much. Yeah, so this video, this is something that I actually thought of this video like a while ago, but I didn't do it because I was like, oh, I don't know, it's kind of dumb, like people are gonna think it's stupid. And I'm like, well, why the hell not just do it anyway? Like, even if people think it's stupid, when has that ever stopped me from saying things? So yeah, I figured what I would talk about in this is this message. Okay. So this is specifically for Latin people, like this message, right? Okay. But this can actually apply to like other groups of people who grew up in a not so great environment. But I want to kind of specify this more towards Latin people, and that is to like embrace your own ghetto. Okay. And I say this because I've seen, especially within this space on YouTube, there's one thing that I see that's really common. It's always putting down, the hood Latin people. Usually, the ones who are targeted the most are New Yorkers, right? We're the ones that are targeted the most. Like always, it's so ghetto. They identified with blackness. Blah, 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 blah. All that spiel, right? So I'm used to that. You probably hear my son crying in the background, but you know what? I told my husband, I said, I'm gonna do a video. I'm tired of this crap, so he better take care of it and make him stop. I am not stopping what I'm doing to go assist, okay? Because I've been with that kid almost like this whole entire week. Basically felt like by myself. That's how much my husband has been freaking working. And he works from home, but anyhow, that has nothing to do with anything. So I figured that I would have this as a topic because what I'm saying is I'm not saying that when I'm saying for people to embrace their ghetto, or to embrace, where it is you came from, if you grew up in a fucked up environment. By the way, I'm going to curse in this video a lot, so if you find that masculine and tacky, whatever, then get off of my channel. So, point is, right, I say to embrace it because not to necessarily promote the lifestyles that are attributed with that environment. I'm not saying that we should be stealing from people, that we should be hurting people, harassing people, being violent or anything like that, or selling drugs, or all the negative things that are associated with people that grow up in the hood, right? Or grow up in that type of environment. I'm not saying to necessarily embrace those things. What I am saying is to embrace overcoming and growing up in that environment, right? And I'm also not saying that that's the environment that you should be raising your children in. And I'm also not saying that that's an environment that you should continue to live in if you have the means to get out of that environment. I'm not saying any of that. I am saying to be proud of overcoming a huge fucking obstacle, okay? And I think that we don't get credit for that. I think that it's really an easy thing to point that at those of us who grew up in those environments and kind of like shit on us and be like, haha, you grew up here and you ain't shit and da da da. And what about these Latin people? Like, for some reason, people are always bringing up like the Latin people that grew up, like, were born and raised in Florida, and they're this and they're so different and they're great and da da da, and they grew up in intact families and this and this and that. And it's like, oh, fantastic. Well, great for them. But not all of us had that experience, and just because we didn't have that experience, that doesn't make us less than, okay? But I think it's very easy to put us down, and then because we always hear the negative talk like that about us and how we grew up in the environments that we grew up in, we kind of like just say, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is bad. Yeah, we are bad. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. And we all just kind of just sit there and suck it up and just take the abuse and take the punches. And it's like, shit, yeah, okay, fine. We may not have had it that great. And there's probably certain negative things that we have, or certain negative personality traits that we may have, like popping off at the mouth if somebody really gets us pissed off. But at the same time, I feel like those things are also, those defense mechanisms help. I would say, not just for me, but even the people that I've grown up around and the people who have overcome living in those environments, those things have really helped us to navigate life in a way that not everybody knows how to, because there is a certain level of street smarts that becomes embedded in you when you grow up in a street type, when you're in that environment, whether you like it or not. There's certain things that I realize that I do, and even in my everyday life when I'm out and about, and how I speak to people, how I carry myself, how I'm always paying a lot of attention to my surroundings. And I noticed that the people that grew up in this environment where I live right now, they do not live that way. They do not operate that way. They do not carry themselves that way at all. And it's not a bad thing per se, but it's also, you see how very sheltered they are. And even I see people that are a lot older than me who have never lived the life I did, the life my parents did, my grandparents. They're just very sheltered, and their world is just it's almost like we're living in the same area, but how we operate is almost like we really are from two different worlds, And I appreciate that I am able to navigate in multiple spaces. And not everybody can do that. And that's something that we can do, because we had no choice but to navigate in the environment that we had grown up in, because what else were we going to freaking do? We had no choice, right? That was survival. And again, I'm not saying to stay in that. I'm not saying that that's something to, a lifestyle to, aspire to be in, or to have your children grow up in, because if that were the case, I would have stood there, and I didn't. If that were the case, I would have my children growing up in that type of environment, and I don't want them to grow up in that environment. But there is certain things that I learned growing up in that environment that, to a degree, I may want to pass down to my children, just so they can have, being sheltered is great to a degree, right? When you're a little too sheltered, you have to be careful with that, especially as a woman. I mean, I guess it's, it's for both men and women, but especially as a woman, you have to be really careful with being just way too sheltered. And I just feel like those of us who grew up in those environments get a really bad rep. And one of the things that I want to say to those people who did grow up in those environments, and this is me vouching for people that have grown up in those environments, regardless of what race they were, and in most cases where I came from, they were Latin or Black. These are like the best people I've ever met in my life. And it's not to say that there's not great people out here, because so far the people that we met out here seem like really good people. But there is a certain sense of just people who are like truly genuine that I appreciate, that come from those environments. And it's not something that you find everywhere. And it sucks because they get such a bad rep. But if you break, a lot of these people are very, and I would consider myself one of them. We're very defensive. We're very guarded. But once you get past that, they are just the best people. And of course, I'm not speaking about all of them. I know that there's shit in every community. Okay, so cut the crap. All right. But I feel like the shit, of our communities is always, pointed out. It's not to say that I don't point out the shit in our communities, because I do, because I think, we should to an extent, right? I'd rather us call it out than have other groups of people call it out. That's just my opinion. But, some people will call you all types of, race traitor and coon and all of that for doing that. But that's a whole other argument for a different day. But yeah, to me, the people that grow up in these areas are the most genuine. They usually are the most down to earth if you can get past that exterior. But they have that tough exterior for a reason. They are defensive for a reason. Unfortunately, we are hardened by our environment. And, and that's kind of a negative trait. But at the very same time, that also helps us. It really does. It really has. And when I think of that, and I think of how much those things have helped me in my life and helped me navigate, I appreciate that a lot. And being able to read people, and I think within the space of like online, it's harder to read people. It really is. When you don't see people face to face, it's harder to read people. It's harder to read people behind just, comments and comment sections. You do your best or whatever. But sometimes people are really hard to read. But I would always say that usually if you have a feeling about something, it's kind of best to go by that than to go by self-doubt. But the thing is that those of us who grew up in those environments usually read people really well. And that's not something that everybody has growing up outside of those communities. Especially when you grow up in sheltered environments, a lot of people are not exposed to certain types of people or exposed to negative things to be able to read people in a certain way or to be able to read people well. Again, it's really hard to read people online. It's hard to read people on YouTube. Hence the reason why I do my best. Even, when I've extended my being nice and whatever. And a lot of times that comes to backfire on me. But, there's times that it doesn't. And you just got to take the chance, right? But it is harder to read people online than in real life. But I say all of this to say, a lot of my channel is, I'm always talking about different Latin issues, and I'm always talking about different, Puerto Rican issues, New Yorican issues, Latin people that grew up here in the States. And, I'm always talking about, this video is like just straight up rambling. Sounds like, if you're still with me, hi. Yeah, like, those things are things that we tend to put down a lot, and we don't give ourselves credit for those things. And those things, if they are honed into different parts of life, different aspects of life, you can become very successful with those things. Being hyper vigilant, being able to read people, being able to be really aware of just your surroundings, point blank, period. A lot of those things, you can really get far with with those things. And it's a shame that, for some of us that had it really bad or grew up really, the environment was really bad, or it was really poor, or it was just really negative, with lots of drugs and alcohol and all that stuff around. It's sad that we may have had to go to learn about those things in that way. But at the same time, I feel like maybe those of us who lived those types of lives That was, I'm not a religious person, but that was God's way of preparing us or giving us tools to be able to have for the rest of our lives. That's just my opinion. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's about it with, you know, I don't know, just growing up in these environments. And just, you know, I one of the things like I always say is that I want us to have pride. And it's hard to have pride in a country where you know, we are not necessarily viewed as the face of America, right? Even though, you know, Latin people, I don't at this point, I don't even know how many millions of us are here right now. But it is projected that by 2040 we're going to be the majority. So, you know, you have, you know, other groups of people that view us a certain way, and those of us that are born here, we have a really bad rep. And I think that a lot of us, what I see, or what it seems like I see here online, is that we try to run away from that, and we try to be like, I'm not like that, and we try to separate ourselves as much as we possibly can. And what I'm saying is that we need to stop separating ourselves and to take pride in some of the things that we've been through, that we grew up in, and that we were able to overcome. Take pride in those things, and don't constantly separate yourself from everybody. I mean, why do that? And it's not to say that you have to be like associating yourself with people that are, you know, just straight up violent criminals and all of that. But at the same time, don't just shit on everybody that's from your community just because they may not have gone down the right path either. Because I think for all of us that grew up in that environment, it would have been very easy for us to become one of those people too. And a lot of us didn't. So it's something to celebrate, but it's also something that deep down we know that we could have been those people too. I know that I could have. I definitely know that I could have. Yeah, and I think one last thing I will say that has nothing to do with anything. I know like I haven't been on here that much. I know that like for the people that are sub to me or whatever, and the people that I'm sub to, people that, you know, I may usually comment in comment sections, I haven't been doing that. I've been kind of like MIA for a bit. I've been just really trying to protect my energy, I guess. I know that there's not a lot of people that are into like zodiac stuff or whatever. We're in like the middle of fucking Mercury retrograde, and there is that part of me that's like, you know, I just want to stay away from drama, from bullshit as much as I possibly can. Like, I feel so tired as it is. And you know, I've just been focusing on home life and other things, and just, I don't know, just my own happiness and my own shit. Like, I just don't feel like, I feel like I came on this platform and some people were, you know, because I was calling out certain things at the time that people were considering that to be quote unquote messy or like, get the fuck out of here. Whatever, if you want to call me that, then call me that. But I'm at the point now where I just feel like I've grown a lot since that time, and since I came on here, and I don't know. I feel like I'm changing a lot, and it's happening kind of fast. Whether you guys are gonna like it or not, I don't know. It doesn't matter either way. The change is gonna happen regardless whether people like it or not. So, with that being said, I think I'm gonna go for now. Again, thanks to the people that have subscribed to me. Thanks for the people who follow me, who watch me. Whatever it is that you get from what it is that I do, thank you. Thank you for seeing value in what it is that I speak about and my content. All right, guys. I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.